Hello and welcome, football fans, to a playoff edition of the Squirtle Pay Dirt Pick'em Show, sponsored by Maples, Nix, and Diesel Horse Law Firm. I am your host, Andy Campbell. Joining me tonight, as always, Tom Nelson and Mark Rogers. And we have four coaches on the show tonight: Lynn Shackelford of Cashion, Brian Smith from Covington-Douglas, and Brandon Tyler, head football coach at Sallisaw. We had those three guys on the show last week. New coach this week is a returning guest of the show from last year, but first time on the show in 2023. It's Justin Jones, head football coach at Norman North. Coach, tell us about your 2023 season and what's looking forward to in 2024.
Yeah, our guys had a great season, finished 9-3, and played really well. I thought, one of our goals coming in every year is to try to be the best of the West, and then, go fight for the big one with all the East Side teams. And I thought, our guys did a great job all year. We were young on offense, had to replace a lot of production, and thought we got our feet underneath us pretty early in the season and had a decent offensive output. And then defensively, probably best defense I've had in maybe the 20 years I've been doing this. And so really excited about what we did this year, and excited about our future as well.
Well, Coach, thanks for joining us on the show. We're filming this on Wednesday evening about 8:30. Mark Rogers just got done filming a state championship preview show where he interviewed all the coaches who are coaching this weekend for a gold ball. That was filmed live on Facebook, and I'm sure you can go back to the Squirtle Facebook page and watch that show. I really encourage it. Mark, great job on that show. What were some of your takeaways? What was enjoyable about having that show tonight?
Well, it was great for everybody to take the time to do it. I mean, especially preparing for games this week. But I was just getting amped for the great competition that we'll have this weekend. I think there's going to be some really, really good games. The 5A game between Carl Albert and Del City is one of, I think, the best that we've had in quite a while, between two teams that have a ton of talent on the field. So I'm just ready to see all the games unfold and hopefully have some good ones.
Well, Squirtle has 4 games this week for network schools. Fairview Woodland game will be shown live on Squirtle.tv and the Squirtle app. The Washington versus Jones game will be audio only on Squirtle. And due to OSSA rules, Squirtle is unable to show the other games that we're discussing tonight, but they do involve Squirtle Network schools. So let's start in Class 4A. Congratulations to one of this show's favorite coaches, Jeff Craig, as his Blanchard Lions took down a number 1 team, Podo, 26-14 last week to advance to the state championship game in 4A. And on Thursday night at UCO, the Lions will face the defending champions, Wagner Bulldogs. Mark Rogers, to start with you.
This should be a good game. Blanchard got a big kick return last week to help get past Podo. Coach Craig talked about a defensive stand too against their wing T offense, which is really difficult to defend. They've met once in the playoffs, and Blanchard won that game. But when you talk about the championship pedigree and programs, Wagner is right up there at the very, very top. Coach Condit's done such a good job there. This is a pretty good team. They've got a lot of young guys. They won it last year after getting trounced in the regular season by Cushing, and they avenged that loss in the championship game. They have 2 tight ends that are incredible players. One's going to Vanderbilt, one's going to OU, Shield Knight and Edwards. Quarterback is really good too. So when you have a couple of guys, 6'5", 210, 215 on either side of the football, that's a big problem. I think Blanchard's really good. They've got a player that's going to the University of Tulsa. I think this is going to be a pretty low-scoring game. Penalties, turnovers are going to be crucial in this contest. I'm going to lean towards Wagner in this. But with all these games this week, this isn't like a week 2 Squirtle Pick'em show. It's tough, and these teams, either one, and any of these games are capable of winning this weekend.
Tom Nelson.
Blanchard knocked off number 2 Poto last week. They draw number 1 Wagner this week. And I'm going to give a shout out to Reagan Palmer. He broke his collarbone early in the season, made it back, and made a huge contribution last week. Had a kick return for a touchdown for a Blanchard, also interception. But Wagner is a hot team right now. In the playoffs, they've beaten Broken Bow, Tuttle, and Ada by a combined score of 129-14. The defending 4A champs have won 23 straight. I'll say the Lions have had a heck of a season, but I think that Wagner is going to get their 24th straight, and they'll play for the gold ball next week.
Check.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of agree with Wagner. We were sitting around the field house, I think Monday, looking at Wagner because we've got a, like I said last week, we've got a Cashion connection with Blanchard with Kurt Kirshner being there, and so we were just looking at how good Wagner's been. I think we went back to like 2012 or something like that, and they've not been to the semifinals at least like 3 times during that span. So it's pretty crazy what Dale's been able to do there at Wagner, and they just reload every year, and I think he said, and I've heard from other people, that this is one of the better teams that they've had, which is kind of scary considering. I mean, they have like a 56 game win streak or something like that at one point in time. So I just think they're a really tough out when the playoffs roll around, and I'd like to see Blanchard win it just because I'd like to see Kurt, get another state championship. I really like him. I think he does a good job there, but I think it's going to be a great game, and all things being equal, I think Wagner's just a little bit better. So I think Blanchard might need a little bit of help.
The winning streak, I think the winning streak was definitely in the 40s. I'm not sure it was that far, but it was Jeff Craig that ended it. It was Blanchard that ended that long winning streak for Wagner. So there is a little bit of history between these two teams in that one meeting.
Coach Jones, let's go to you.
Yeah, this is a game of looking at Wagner and what they've been able to do in the championship pedigree that they have. It's hard to pick against them. And I've been a part of being on the opposite sideline of Coach Condit and his team in the playoffs, and they're really, really good when it matters. And as much as my heart will pull for Coach Craig in the Blanchard Lions and what they've been able to do, I know they've got a young group that he's looked forward to for several years now, and knew that they could do this. I think it'll be a close game, but I'm going to go with Wagner on this one.
Coach Smith.
Mark Rogers kind of stole my thunder there a little bit when I did hear that Jeff Craig ended Wagner's streak there a few years back. Again, I don't know a lot about either one of these teams. I just know what Wagner's tradition is. I really am pulling for Blanchard. Again, this goes back to my ties with Tony Aguilera, who's a trainer for them. But I think it's going to be a closer game than what people think. But Wagner is you can't bet against them right now.
Okay, for a state championship game, Wagner versus Blanchard. Coach Tyra, let's go to you.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think Blanchard's kind of hitting on all cylinders right now. Got a big win against Poto last week. I thought they looked very good, in all 3 phases. Hit the long kickoff return there to start the second half, and kind of broke the game open then. But kind of like Shaq mentioned a while ago, Wagner, this time of the year, I think, November and December, they crank it up another notch. They know what's at stake now once they get in the playoffs, and Dale has done a tremendous job there with what they've done. And last year beating Cushing in the finals, and here they are again, ready to go try to win another one again. So, I'm going to take Wagner in this one.
All right, let's go to the number 1 team and defending champs in Class 2A. Washington Warriors 13-0 on the season after a 47-14 win over Vian in the quarterfinals. This Friday at 7 p.m. at Yukon High School, the Warriors will face the Jones Longhorns, who moved on to the semifinals with a commanding 56-36 win over Victory Christian. Tom Nelson, we'll start with you. Jones versus Washington.
Well, so much talent on the field for this one, but a couple of good quarterbacks going to share the field. Major Cantrell for Washington, Clayton Creasy for Jones. They both had big games last week in quarterfinal wins. Jones had 538 yards of offense in their win over Victory Christian last week. Washington's second closest game this season was a 34-8 win over Jones back in September. And Washington has won all 7 games in this series. And I said last week I was going to pick Washington every week, and I didn't stutter. I'm going to pick Washington.
Mark.
I think this is the 6th time in 4 years that the teams have played, and they've played in the playoffs 4 times. Carson Creasy's only played in one of these games. He was hurt the beginning of this season, and Jones just lit up Victory Christian last week. And I think I've seen Creasy play. He's a good player. Beating Washington is going to be very, very difficult. They've got the same kind of setup as Wagner with big physical players, and Roberts, Spalding, as well as Cooper Alexander. I think they're probably going to be too much for Jones, but I'm gonna say this is the closest of the 4 that we've had in the last 2 years.
Check.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close, or at least closer than it was week 2. We've talked on here before about when you have to play somebody for the second time, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the team that lost the first time wins the second time. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think Washington's probably a little bit too talented, and just it's getting to the point with those guys where this week's just another week. So I'm gonna go with Washington, but I do agree with Mark. I think it'll at least be a football game. I think it'll be second half, fourth quarter. Maybe Washington pulls away, wins by a couple of touchdowns.
Coach Tyler.
It is hard to beat somebody twice in the same year, but Coach Beller and those guys have got it going. They're very, very talented. Watched them in Vian last week, and those two tight ends, a quarterback. They were all there last year when they made the run and won it. And I think their experience from being there and being in big games like this will get them through another one. And Washington should come out on top again.
Coach Jones.
Yeah, first of all, hats off to Jones. I think they've had an incredible year. I think they're playing their best football right now. But when you just look at the talent that Washington has, and you combine that with the way that Coach Beller operates in really a championship type atmosphere every day, and when you get in the playoffs, there's no substitute for bigs, and they've got big skill and big athletes all over. Quarterback does a great job of distributing the ball where it needs to go. So I'm going to take Washington in this, and I think it's pretty handled.
Coach Smith.
Jones had a nice run there, in the a few years back, and not that they're taking anything away from them, but I think it's Washington's year, and they're on a run. And like you said earlier in the year, that they handled them pretty well, and I don't think that's going to change anything tomorrow night or Friday night.
Winner of the Jones-Washington game gets the Kiefer-Millwood winner on Saturday, December 9th at 7 p.m. at UCO in the 2A finals. So let's talk about Kiefer-Millwood. Stay in Class 2A for our next pick'em game. Millwood is 12-1 on the season, looking for a return trip to the state championship game. The Falcons will play at 7 p.m. on Friday at Bristow against the Kiefer Trojans. Kiefer moved on to the semifinals with a 34-14 win over Alva a week ago. Mark Rogers, we'll start with you.
Millwood had a little bit of struggle offensively in the middle of the season, and I think they've got those issues kind of figured out. Great tradition there. Kiefer did a great job of battling back last week. They got down 2 touchdowns to Alva, 14-0, and then that was all they gave the Gold Bugs on the way to 34-14 win. I think that Millwood is going to go back to the finals against Washington. It was a great game last year, 4-point game that Washington scored late to win. I wouldn't be surprised if Kiefer won the game, but I'm going to go with the Falcons in a close win over the Trojans.
Tom.
Defense wins in the playoffs, and Millwood shut out Idabel's high-powered offense through 3 quarters on their way to a 34-7 win last week. The Falcons got another undefeated team with an electric offense this week because Kiefer has so many options offensively with 5 guys around 500 or more yards rushing. Their quarterback, Jackson Worley, is a dual threat, but they will also give up points. Teams have scored 24 or more 6 times, and Alva, as Mark was saying, gave them a run, got out early, then Kiefer came back and pulled away. I know you guys have been high on Kiefer, and for good reason. They're a great team, but I'm going to take Millwood in this game. I think they're going to move on.
Coach Smith, we'll start with you.
Big fan of Trent Worley, former 8-man coach. And I'm assuming that's his son at quarterback. So I'm really pulling for Kiefer because of that. Millwood's just loaded. They, like I said last week, that they just every year this time of year, Millwood's in the box score. Millwood's playing. So I'm hoping Kiefer makes it close. Hoping Kiefer pulls off the win. But smart money. I think you got to go with Millwood by probably 2 touchdowns.
Coach Jones.
Yeah, I think that number one, I think Coach Franklin is a great young coach that's really started to solidify the tradition back to Millwood. They've won some close games this year. The OCS game that they won close. I know they went on the road early in the year to Scott City, Kansas, and won that, I think, 6-0. I had a chance a couple of weeks ago or last week to go watch Millwood practice and just kind of look at the way that Coach Franklin does some things, and obviously really impressed with their quarterback. But then you look defensively at what they have athletes everywhere able to man up and really take away the different options that any offense is going to bring to the table. And so love Coach Worley and love what he does, and his approach and his mindset's been a part of some really successful programs. But again, I think at the end of the day in the playoffs, having been here, Millwood having a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Coach Franklin has really ridden that this year with his group, and I look for them to win the game and make it to the finals next week.
I do have to interject here that they got a point for every hour they had to get on the bus to go to Scott City. They got a heck of a nice lady in the court clerk's office there in Scott City that dealt with my ticket that I received for going 32 and a 20. And I think I almost went to jail over the weekend in Scott City, which I promise it would not have been a good situation. So stay out of Scott City. The Beavers have got a football team there, but make sure that you slow down. You got to, it's like you got to hit the afterburners because you're driving 90 out there in the middle of Western Kansas, and all of a sudden you got to slow down to 20. So that's a public service announcement for anyone going to Western Kansas.
Well, I've got to throw this in too, since Mark is. I'll throw out some of my history on this. My first driving test I took when I was 14 years old. I took in Scott City and flunked it because the town I grew up in. Yeah, the town I grew up in didn't have any 4-lane streets, like, two on each side of the dividing line. But Scott City was the big city, and I flunked it because I turned into the wrong lane. So bad.
You're lucky. They might have put you in jail for 5 years for doing something like that.
That's right. Bad memories of Scott City, but those Beavers, they can put up a fight sometimes, and they did in that game against Millwood.
Sounds like you needed some good legal representation up there, Mark, for your ticket.
I was driving my dad's car. He's a lawyer too. He didn't have his tag renewed. I mean, it's one of the. Then anyway, I could go on. We got to move quickly here because I can talk a lot more about Scott City.
Future Millwood, Coach Tyler, let's go to you.
Hey, just like Coach Smith was talking about Coach Worley, I've known him for a long time. He's a great football coach. Got to know him really well when he was at Lincoln Christian, and he does a tremendous job and has got the Kiefer program rolling right now. But again, like we talked about last week, it's November, December here. Millwood is again, just like they always are. They're experienced, they're athletes, and Coach Franklin's doing a great job with them as he has been in the past. And again, kind of like Coach Jones said, I think Millwood will take this one again here and be back in the finals again against Washington.
Jack.
So did anybody see the Worley kid throw it like over his head I think it was the second round their last game against Victor Christian on like a 4th down where they scored the touchdown to go ahead? Nobody saw that. It was on like, the huddle play of the week or whatever. I mean, it was pretty cool. You need to look it up if you haven't seen it.
Send me your login.
That's what I was thinking. Get an account.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some solid stuff you can watch on there right now. But I think Millwood's really, really good. And like I've said before, this time of the year, it's really, really hard to knock them out. Coach Franklin does a great job, and they got freaks, and freaks matter. But I'm gonna roll with Trent, my old college roommate. We played against each other in high school, and I think they're, you throw it backwards over your head for a game winner. Maybe you're a team of destiny, and maybe that's what Kiefer is. And it'd be really, really cool to see them win and get to the finals and take on who I think probably Washington. But I'm going to pull for them. Coach Smith said the smart money's on Millwood, but like Presty said, Brian, scared money don't make none. So I'm gonna roll with I'm rolling with the Trojans this week.
All right, and now for our final Pater Pick'em game and our Squirtle game of the week, which is being called by Tom Nelson and Adam Diesehorst. Favorite Yellow Jackets advanced to the state semifinals for the second year in a row with an impressive 56-20 win over Stroud a week ago. Jackets will face the Woodland Cougars on Friday at 7 p.m. at Hara. Tom, you're calling this game on Friday for Squirtle. Give us your thoughts.
Well, the defending champ Jackets are going for win number 29 in a row, but Woodland's going to put up a fight in this one. Coach Goad at Woodland has been high on his team's experience and their physicality. Jackson Rhodes is a huge presence for the Cougars. On offense, he's a 6'4" tight end. He's our leading receiver. On defense, he's a linebacker who has led them in tackles all 4 years, and he's got a team-high 24 tackles for loss this year. That physical Woodland defense has got to contend with a Fairview offense that has so many weapons. Jax Bernard will probably go over 3,000 yards passing in this game. He has 46 passing touchdowns, another 15 rushing touchdowns, and Isaiah Burris, his favorite target, has almost 1,400 yards receiving. But then Reed Martins has over 900 receiving yards. He could go over 1,000 yards receiving by the end of this ball game. They also have 3 500-yard rushers as well. They've scored exactly 700 points in 13 games. That's 54 points a game. Can Woodland slow down Fairview? That's going to be the story. Nobody has yet, but I'm going to be there to see if it can be done. This should be a good one.
Mark, you've had Fairview 2 weeks in a row. Give us your thoughts on this game with Woodland.
Yes, I have. Now, while Sam Presti is pretty cool, is the great Q-tip from a tribe called Quest that said, "Scared money don't make none." And Sam just stole the line. So, Shaq, I know probably the tribe is big in Blackwell, but maybe not so big in Morrison. I think Fairview played the game of the season last week. We're going in, Justin and I were there, expected a close game, and they overwhelmed them in about any way and every way that you could. It was a Mike Tyson and Spinks type of situation. So Jax Bernard it's been great to see him play the last couple of years. He's a really, really good player. I know Fairview, I know that Woodland is tough on defense. I know they've got a proud program. I know that they're well coached, a lot of tradition. I think that between Woodland and Fairfax, they've won 5 state championships. But I'm going to go with Fairview in this. I think we'll have a Fairview Hominy final. And that one might be a coin toss. 2 really good quarterbacks in that game in Jax Bernard and Jackson Woods.
Coach Jones, you called the Fairview game last week. Give us your thoughts on the matchup with Woodland.
Yeah, the offense for Fairview is as advertised, and Coach Bernard does a great job of stretching the field horizontally and vertically with some of the RPO schemes that they have. But the quarterback really impressed me. I was being able to make throws from one hash to the other. He's a big time player, and he's surrounded by really impressed with Burris and his speed. Just jumped off the tape, prepping for that game, but then seeing it live was a whole different story. But one of the things I think that Fairview brings to the table that not a lot of people talk about because their offense is so good is how good they are on defense. And, really just was impressed with their box and the amount of penetration they were able to get against Stroud. But then you look at the back end and the safety, the Strader kid, just super impressive last week. And the guys fly around and play really, really disciplined. And so, it's going to be hard for me to pick against Fairview against anybody after seeing the game that they put on display last week. And so I'm going to go with Fairview.
Jack, you're the Class A guy here. Woodland, Fairview.
I think Woodland's good. I thought they would go to Colcord and win. I watched their Hominy Woodland film, and I think they're really good. We played them in the playoffs, I think, 2 years in a row. We played them 3 years ago. I can't remember their quarterback's name, but I remember he was a freshman warming up before the game, and I was really glad that we were playing the senior and not the freshman that night because he looked like he could really go. And I've seen him on film, and he can throw it around a little bit. Woodland's weird if you've never seen him or never played him. It's kind of you're going to get basically a single wing offense, and if that doesn't work, then you're going to get four wide and empty, and they're going to chunk it all over the place. So, and if both of them are working, then you're going to have to stop both of them. I don't think Fairview is going to show them anything that's going to really freak them out just because of the district they were in. They've played Hominy. They've seen the Woods kid for 4 years. So Jax is really, really good. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like they haven't seen a good quarterback or a team with really good athletes because Hominy has those. So I think it's going to be a war. I picked against Fairview last week. I thought Stroud had a scheme and an offense that could cause them some problems. I wasn't expecting them to give up 28 points in 47 seconds or whatever it was in that game, and it kind of got out of hand from there. But I think it'll be a war. I think it's going to be like Mark said, about some of these state championship games. It's not going to be like a week 2 game. It'll be the fourth quarter, and if one team turns it over, gives it away, it'll be a lot easier for the other one. But all things being equal, it might come down to who has it last. I think it's got the potential to be that kind of game. So I'll pick Fairview just because they've been there before. I think this is the first time Woodland's been in the semis in a while. And hopefully my mom's not watching because she used to be the elementary principal at Woodland. But I'm gonna take the Jackets in a really, really close one.
Coach Smith.
Well, I'm gonna go and make my pick first and then do some talking after that. But I'm taking Fairview. love Coach Bernard, but also Coach Heltzel, that's an assistant there, was my assistant a few years back. Shaq can correct me if I'm wrong here, but Woodland is a combination of Fairfax and Ralston, correct?
Ralston. Yeah.
Okay. And they were 8-man back in 16 and 17. We played them as a non-district game, so they have a little bit of 8-man ties. Larry Coker is from, where's he from? Fairfax?
He coached at Fairfax. I think he's from Okima.
That's right. But he coached at Fairfax.
Correct.
So just some history there. But that has nothing to do with the game. Obviously, nothing to do with 2023. I think Fairview's good. I think Woodland's good. I just think, like Coach Shack said, that I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think the fact that Fairview was there last year and playing really well, I think it comes down to them, and I think they win it.
Coach Tyler.
It's going to be a great ball game. Kind of like Shaq said, we got the privilege of playing Woodland 3 years in a row at Gore in the second round when I was there. And, man, guys, they can play. They're very physical in what they do. Like they're going to show you a lot of different looks offensively. Like you said, they're going to be in the single wing, the power ride, and then look up, and they're going to be throwing the ball over the place. And the Rhodes kid at linebacker, I've seen him for 3 years. The dude can go, and the quarterback they have now is very talented. He's about a 6'5" kid that can spin it really well. But Fairview sounds like they're on the roll again. They have a big win against Stroud last week, but like Shaq said, just go down to the fourth quarter. Last person that has the ball could win this one, but it's going to be a physical ball game on both sides. And like I said, Woodland can play a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won it.
I've just got to say really quick that in my history of broadcasting Woodland games, I have nowhere to go but up. This will be my second Woodland game I broadcast, about 10, 12 years ago. O'Keene opened up over at Woodland, over at Fairfax. I broadcast the game on the principal's cell phone because you have to have one cell phone service worked there, and it wasn't my phone. Holding my hand up like this with the principal's cell phone calling that game, and the lights were horrible too. Bad memories of it. I'm looking forward to a nice stadium in here on Friday night. So,
well, the Fairview Woodland winner will face either Hominy or Hooker in the finals next week. That's on Saturday, December 9th at 1 p.m. at UCO. All right, those are our Squirtle Network school games. Let's discuss some non-Squirtle Network playoff games in Oklahoma. And we're going to start at the top and kind of work our way down. In 6A1 with the state championship game this week between Bixby and Jinx, which will be played on Friday night, 7 p.m. at UCO. Tom, start with you.
Well, they just played a month ago. Bixby won 31-14. Jinx is playing better after suffering 3 losses in the first half of the season, but they do have 2 wins over Union to remember fondly, but the gold ball this year is going to Bixby.
Mark?
That was a pretty succinct commentary. I agree. Credit to Jinx. They were down 21-0 to Union last week and came back and won. And they beat Union 2 times in the same season. Bill Hasten had a nice article in the Tulsa World on that game, and he really has respected Jinx or the Bixby dominance over the last few years and compared them to the great run that Alan Trimble had in the late 90s. And those 2 programs are very similar for about a 6-year stretch of just dominance. So I'll go with Bixby, but Jinx will show up to play, and it won't be necessarily easy.
Coach Jones, you're a 6A1 guy. Give us your thoughts.
First of all, just starting with what Coach Montgomery's done at Bixby has been, nothing short of amazing. And they've got great athletes. The Goolsby kid might be the best athlete in the state. Been super impressed with him offensively, defensively, his ability on kick returns and punt returns to really flip the field. And the thing about Bixby is they can score in bunches and in a hurry. And I think when you look at the history of these 2 teams, there's really one team that's really played them close, and that's Jinx. I don't think there's not a fear factor there. And 2 great coaching staffs going at it. Coach Gaylor is one of the very best in our state at what he does defensively. He'll definitely have a plan put together for him. Jinx in the playoff is different than Jinx in the regular season as well. And so I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to some turnovers early. What I do know about Bixby is if Jinx turns the ball over, they're going to make them pay, and it's going to get out of hand in a hurry. If Jinx can keep it close, and I think they will have that game plan to really control the clock and to keep Bixby's offense on the sideline. If they can do that, they can get the Jones kid to be able to stay healthy and take care of the football. He's been really as a sophomore has gotten better and better each week. I think that he can keep him in the game. And then you look at Jinx's defense. One of the kids that I think is really probably an unsung guy throughout the state is the safety for Jinx, number 22. He's a phenomenal player for a freshman, and plays offense, plays defense, plays some special teams as well. Is all over the field. I look for this to be a really close game early. Again, I think if Bixby gets a lead, then they can extend it. I very could see a blowout here, but at the same time, I think Jinx is going to come to play. I think this is going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think this is going to be an absolute battle.
Coach Tyler.
Kind of piggybacking off what Coach Jones said, I know Coach Gaylor wrote really well, and I know he'll make some adjustments from the first time that they've played, and it's going to be kind of interesting, a fun ball game to watch to see what they do. And then you go back to last year, I think the last loss that Bixby had has been to Jinx. So again, they know they can beat them, but again, can they get it done is going to be the question, and that'll be another great ball game at that level. And but again, what Coach Montgomery's done there at Bixby has been tremendous. And he's an NSU Redmond, not a Riverhawk, and so again, I think he's gonna win him another one.
Coach Shack.
Yeah, Bixby's just going to be a really tough out in the playoffs, probably for a while. But just seems like we all know Adam really well, and Adam's a really good friend of mine. I've known Adam since he was a GA at NEO, and when he got the job at Jinx and they went to the playoffs his first year, and I was talking to him about it, he said there's a difference when they walk in the playoffs and they've all got blonde hair, and they're just different. And I think you can see that they're not scared. They're not going to be scared of Bixby. I don't know that it's going to matter, especially in the second half. But I think they'll definitely have. If anybody's got a shot in 6A1, I think Jinx has got the best shot. So hopefully they can keep it close and make it a really good game and make it fun to watch. But I think in the end, Bixby probably pulls it out.
Coach Smith.
I'll talk more later when I have a little bit more knowledge about the games you're talking about. But exactly on what all you guys have said, I think it's going to be a fun game. Kind of rooting for Jinx here a little bit, but Bixby is the team right now. They are the kind of carrying the name of Oklahoma. So I think Bixby wins it, but I hope it's close.
State championship game in 6A2 will feature Muskogee versus Stillwater on Friday at 1 p.m. UCO. Mark Rogers.
I picked Muskogee at the beginning of the year. It was a wild weekend. Last weekend when you had Muskogee stopping Deer Creek on a 2-point conversion with 25 seconds to go in the game. And then you had Stillwater coming from behind to 15 points down in the second half to knock off Choctaw. So I think the 4A or the 6A Division II champion could have been any of these four teams, but I'll go with Muskogee with Jamarian Ficklin maybe making some plays that he didn't make in the last game. I think Stillwater's the favorite in this game. If Jake was here, he would probably have Stillwater a 7-point favorite in the game, but I think I'll stick with the pick I made at the beginning of the season and maybe get lucky with going with Muskogee.
Holden Thompson's 31 yards shy of 2,000 yards rushing. He put the Pioneers on his back in the fourth quarter last week. Pioneers looking to repeat as state champions for the first time in program history, and this game is also a Week 10 rematch. The Pioneers won that ball game 31-20 down the stretch. Jamarian Ficklin from Muskogee has the hot hand. 250 yards to the air last week, 175 on the ground, had a hand in 5 touchdowns. I'm with Mark. I think the Ruffers are going to ride that hot hand all the way to the title, which means they're going to win this week. So they're going to win that championship.
Coach Jones.
Looking at this game, I know Stillwater and what Coach K Wood's been able to do. Getting his feet underneath him as the head coach and really getting established. Stillwater's going to bring an incredible presence to the field. Coach Hill and what he does at Muskogee and just the athleticism at quarterback that they have. Watching that game last week, again, it could have went either one. Was able to see the 2-point conversion there that won Muskogee the game. Again, this is a kind of a toss-up for me. I know that Muskogee's hungry to get back and to win a gold ball. But it's hard for me to pick against Stillwater in the type of athletes that they have. I know they're dealing with a few injuries, but I know they can run the ball. I know in state championship games, you better bring your run game. And I think Stillwater will definitely bring theirs. And I'm going to go with Stillwater in this in a really close game.
Coach Tyler.
I'm with Mark and Tom on this one. I'm going to go with Muskogee. We went to 707 with those guys this summer, and they got some dudes out there that can go. The quarterback is tremendous, and he got some receivers that he can throw to. And know Coach Risenhoover, their OC, really well, and Coach Hill. They do a tremendous job, and they've known them for a long time. And glad to see them back in this position. I know Muskogee's a proud football program and a proud town for that. And, we'll go with the Roughers tomorrow night.
Sure.
I was born in Muskogee, Coach Tyler. I'm a Okie from Muskogee originally, but I got a little bit of a special place in my heart for Stillwater. I'm a huge Coach Kaywood fan. I think he does a great job, and there's no bigger Stillwater pioneer than Coach Kaywood. He's graduated from there. I think it's the only place he's ever coached. So to see him get the head job was really awesome. For me, just because I know that's something he's always wanted to do, and then to get him in the finals in your first year is really cool. Their quarterback's got a little bit of a special place in my heart because I got to coach him last year. I'm excited for him, and he's had a tremendous season. Chance Acords played really well for them, and I think in order for them to win it on Friday, he's going to have to play really well. But like I said last week, Coach Casey used to always tell me that, gold's found in the ground, not in the air. And I just one thing Stillwater can do is they can run the football. And I think they're going to do that Saturday. I think they'll control the clock. I think defensively they're really good. And then, hopefully they can make a few plays. And I think it'll be like most of these games, like we've said. It'll be close, and whoever makes the most mistakes will probably lose. But I'm gonna pick Stillwater just because they've been here a lot since they've been in 6A Division II, and I think that means a lot this time of year. So I'm taking the Nears in a close one.
Coach Smith.
Give me Stillwater. Also, a couple of things there. Talk about Chance Acord. I lived with his dad in college. Jeff and I were good friends. Still talk quite a bit. And then one of their other top players, Talon Kendrick. His mom is a Billings girl, Stephanie Hayton. She could flat out score back when his old 6-on-6 days. She's a 93 graduate from Billings, I believe. But so I've got some ties there. And so I'm pulling for Stillwater, and I think that's where it goes.
All right, now on to maybe the game of the year in Oklahoma high school football. 5A, number 1 versus number 2, Carl Albert and Del City facing off for the gold ball on Saturday, December 2nd at 1 p.m. Mark, really enjoyed your interview earlier with these two coaches. And again, fans, be sure to tune into that show. Mark, let's start with you.
I don't want to pick this. I really don't. People have been texting me at the radio station asking me to pick this game all week. It could go either way. And it might go either way by a couple touchdowns. Just sometimes things happen, but there's enough explosive players on the field that, I don't know. I'm going slightly with Carl Albert. I think that they've got the championship pedigree and they expect to win. But I think these teams are both incredibly well coached. And I asked both of these coaches if this is the most talent they've ever stepped on a high school field to see or with. And I think their answers were both yes. D1 talent all over the place. Should be a great game. If they played it 10 times, it might go 5-5, but I'm gonna lean towards Carl Albert, but it's like a 50.5 to 51-49, something like that for me.
You've got number 1 versus number 2, two undefeated teams in the same darn school district playing for a state title. The kids know each other really well. It's quite a storyline, going to be a lot of fun. They didn't play each other in the regular season. This sets up one of those most interesting pairings we're going to see playing for the gold ball. I'm going to go ahead and take Carl Albert. They're going to go back-to-back in 5A, win state championship number 18.
Coach Jones.
Really like the matchup. The one kid I'm impressed with out of all the talent that they have is the Fields kid from Del City. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's very under the radar, but having a chance to watch both teams and got to watch Del City play Guthrie, and just like you said, athletes everywhere. The River Warren kid moving over from McGinnis, certainly helps the cause. But then you got Carl Albert on the other side who knows how to do these things, year in and year out. And so I think the first thing is going to come down to is can Dale City get across and get past the fact that the team across from them is wearing Titans on their chest. And if they can do that, then I certainly see them being able to win this game, because I think athlete for athlete, I don't know, that scale may tip either way. It's dead even, and I think this is going to be an absolute juggernaut, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. You got two coaches that absolutely know everything about each other. Coach Jones worked for Coach, and I think just looking at that, that causes some things in the back of your mind to set in, and neither team's going to trick each other. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to making plays, and it's who's going to make those plays early and can sustain that. But I'm going to go with Carl Albert, just because they're the ones that have been there and done that. But I think this is going to be maybe the game of the weekend.
Coach Tyler.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a big matchup. Should be a great ball game with these two teams. But just kind of like we talked about with Millwood and Washington and Bigsby and Jinx and those guys, here we are again, and Carl Albert's right here in the mix of it, just like they always are. And, I think their tradition with what they have with Coach Dunn and the coaches in the past with Coach Rose and all those guys, and that tradition that they have, and, I think that's kind of what's going to get them over the top this week. So I'll take Carl Albert in this one.
Yeah.
So could Carl Albert and Dale City win 6A2, you think?
Yeah.
So, like, if you combine 6A2 and 5A, that'd be incredible playoff, wouldn't it?
That'd be good games, I think.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I mean, you have like Deer Creek and McGinnis, and Dale City, Stillwater in the quarterfinals. That'd be pretty cool to watch. But, well, that's probably a conversation for a different time. Carl Albert's lost once in the finals? Is that right? Aren't they like 16-1 or 15-1 or something like that?
They've only lost to Booker T in the finals.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I don't know why. I think Dale City's going to beat them. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel that way. I just kind of do. I think it's just kind of one of those years where maybe we'll see some weird stuff this weekend, and they, like you guys have said, I haven't watched them a ton. Just what you do see every now and then, they do have some freaks. They got a quarterback, that's been in the playoffs and made a run and moved over from McGinnis. So I think, if, like Justin said, if they can get through the first quarter and they're in it, I think they'll win it. I think if they realize that it's just a bunch of high school kids out there playing, and they're not actual Titans out there playing against them, then I think they'll be okay. So I think Dale City's going to shock a whole bunch of people and win a state championship this weekend.
Coach Smith.
Quickly, I'll just say that if I was going to go to any game this week, I'm going to go to 8-man games, but I would say this. But if I was just a high school football fan, this would be the game I'd go to, and mainly just because of the amount of talent that's out there on both sides of the football, guys that are going to play at the next level. So I think that's very exciting for high school sports. But it's hard you can't pick against Carl Albert in my mind.
We already talked about 4A with Wagner and Blanchard, so let's move on down to 3A, an all private school matchup. I know that excites a lot of our coaches here on the panel. But Lincoln Christian and Heritage Hall on Saturday, December 2nd at 7 p.m. for the state championship. Tom Nelson.
Well, historically, these two teams, they know each other. They've played in this 2008. The Hall won the first three. Lincoln Christian has won the last three. The only other time they played for the title was in 2015, and Heritage Hall won that ball game, and I think they're going to win again and take the gold ball. I'll take the Hall.
Mark.
I think Heritage Hall matches up better against teams that are a little more finesse. Now, I know Lincoln Christian, they're pretty good all the way across the board, but I think it's a little bit better matchup. I think the best player on the field is going to be Andy Bass. I've really never seen a high school player like him. He's not the best high school player that I've ever seen, but the fact that he's as big and strong as he is and runs a 10-400 meters is pretty unique. So that's going to be tough to stop. And Heritage Hall does have a lot of good supporting cast around him. So this will be a good game. The teams are 3-3 all time. All have come in the semifinals or later. Heritage Hall won the only other time they played in the finals, and I think they'll win this one again.
Coach Tyler, let's go to you.
I was really hoping the old Outlaws had them on the ropes last week. Coach Weber there at Marlowe was my roommate in college, and still great friends, obviously. But they kind of let one slip there at the end. Thought they had them beat, and they were able to drive down the field, Heritage Hall, and kick the field goal to win. And it's a great game. But Lincoln Christian's another good football team. When I was at Viam, we always played them, scrimmaged them, did something with them. When Coach Melton was there, both of those teams, lucky us in 4A, they're coming to 4A next year, and from what I hear, I think Lincoln's pretty young. I think they only start like 2 seniors, and the rest of them are sophomores and juniors. And they say their freshman class coming up is going to be one of their better classes they've ever had in the history of the school. So, we got that to look forward to coming up in the next few years. But, I think Heritage Hall is probably on a mission again with the Bass kid. Watching him run and track, run that 10-4 was unreal. Seeing that big sucker run down the track like that. And, he's a great athlete. I think Heritage Hall will pull this one out.
Coach Shack.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to bet against Heritage Hall. I watched them play Millwood earlier in the year. I think Mark, you and Adam were on the call that night, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
The Bass kid's he's really good. I think a lot of times if you've got the best player on the field, you've got a pretty good chance. And playing in the finals isn't a big deal for Heritage Hall. It's not a big deal for Lincoln Christian either. But I think all things being equal, I'm sure it'll be standing room only during the game. Just be a packed house at UCO to watch. But I think the Hall is probably gonna pull this one out. Hopefully, it's a little bit shorter than last year's final, so Coach Jones doesn't have to be there until 2:00 in the morning. But I think it's going to be a great game, and I think Heritage Hall's probably pulling this one out.
Coach Smith.
128 points. I'm just telling you, no matter how good that game was, I'd be a little grumpy in the third quarter. I waited that long. I'm sorry.
I got to sit through, Tom and I got to sit through 6 touchdowns in the third quarter on
Seven.
on Friday. 7, sorry. Yeah. So I can feel for you.
All right.
Give me Heritage Hall. Again, same thing you guys all said. I think they're loaded, and I think they're going to win it.
Coach Jones.
Yeah, I'm going to go against the group. I'm going to go with Lincoln Christian. Got to see them at 7-on-7. They've got athletes all over the field. I know Bass is really good and probably is the best guy on the field in that game. But just watching the speed and really the length of Lincoln Christian across the board, if the quarterback has a good night and is on the money, I'm going to take them in a close one.
How about Class B? Tom, you want to give us some thoughts on Class B? We have the semifinals in Class B this weekend.
Class B, I tell you what, I like what O'Keene. They got a nice win last week down in Cashion, and I think they're on a roll right now. They got Velma Alma. I think that they will knock off Velma Alma, and I think they will take on Sealing. I think Sealing is cruising, and that'd be a rematch of a game earlier this season that Sealing beat O'Keene. But so a couple teams not too far from each other out there in Class B playing for the championship next week.
Coach Smith, you're a Class B guy. Tell us about these semifinal matchups this weekend.
Well, we beat O'Keene. We lost to Sealing. I know Regent real well, and then the Velma thing, I'll just keep my mouth shut and move on. But a lot of fun games here. I'm going to disagree with Tom. I think Velma beats O'Keene, and I think they beat them by 22. I think on the other side of that, Sealing beats Regent by about the same. And then I think it's Sealing's year. Everybody's playing for second right now with them. Whoever wins on that Velma O'Keene side is going to play Sealing, and it'll be a tough game for whoever that is. A lot of fun games there. Like I said, I know a lot about all these teams, and it really comes down to matchups. And like Shackelford talked about that a week ago, it's sometimes not the best team, but it's whoever matches up the best. But Velma's a tough matchup for a lot of people, and we matched up well with them and gave them a hell of a game. But on the flip side of that, they wore us out and they moved on. On the other side of that, Sealing, I don't know how anybody really matches up to them. They can smash mouth you, they can spread you out, and they can just flat out get after you on defense. So I'm picking Sealing by about 20, and I'm picking Velma by 20.
Hey, Shaq, you got an upfront view of O'Keene and Regent Prep, as both of those teams played at your place last week. Give us your thoughts on those two teams.
Well, I watched Regent beat OBA. I haven't watched Sealing play this year. I watched them a little bit last year before they played OBA. The Manual kid is a freak. I mean, just an absolute freak show. And you could take him out of Sealing and stick him on any team you wanted to, and you couldn't tell a difference between him and a freak show from Carl Albert or Bixby or wherever. I mean, he's legit. He looks the part. Just going off of what I know about Coach Manuel and just what I've seen about Sealing, it looks like they practice defense and they care about it a little bit. I didn't really get the feeling that Regent did, and I think that probably going to be a problem for them this week. They're really good on offense. Their quarterback's really good. They look the part, but you're going to have to get some stops at this point in the season if you want to move on. And I think Sealing will do that. I think it'll probably be high scoring, but I kind of agree with Brian. I think Sealing wins this one, and I think it's pretty comfortable. As far as the other game goes, I watched O'Keene live. They're pretty good. Really good at running the football, good defensively. I've seen Velma on film. I think they just have more athletes across the board, and I think they're a little bit more multiple, and I think that's probably gonna cause O'Keene some problems. So I'm going to take Velma and Sealing to meet in the finals, and I think Sealing probably brings the gold ball back. Will this be the first one since the Bruce era that Sealing's won?
Correct.
So they're probably ready to do that. So I think they get it done this year.
All right, guys, let's finish this thing up with the state championship.
One more. I was going to real fast. Going to come in on this. Gary Manuel, of course, he ended the Morrison 90-game winning streak at Snyder as a small quarterback. His son is really good. Caden is a good graduate.
And his son is not a small quarterback, man. His son is a big quarterback.
Yeah, that's the Shaq was not there at that time. But I think, and they throttled O'Keene, who's had a really good season and probably deserved a little bit better fate than getting beat by 50 earlier in the season. But I talked to Gary earlier today, a little bit concerned about Regent Prep's size up front, but I think Sealing is going to win the gold ball class B.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Gary, he downplays his offensive line and defensive line like nobody's business. He's telling me all year long they're not very good up front. He's wrong. They're good up front.
Well, that's the one thing we noticed about Regent Prep is their size. They were big. That quarterback's really good, but they're big.
And Sealing's fast.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's finish this thing up. State championship game with Class C. Ryan upset Timberlake and now faces number 1 Tipton. This game will be played on December 1st at 7 p.m. at Southern Nazarene in Bethany. Tom Nelson, kick us off.
Well, it's a rematch of a 40-32 Tipton win back on September 29th. That was really Tipton's only gut check game this season, one of two that Tipton had to play the full 48 minutes. Coach Tomberlin's done a great job with the Cowboys, and their run this year has been one of the best stories in 8-man. But Tipton's won 6 of the last 11 titles in Class C. I think the Tigers are going to win a 7th this weekend.
Mark.
Tipton's going to be tough to beat. It sounded like that the Tipton Ryan game earlier this season was great and went right down to the wire. So I think this one should be fun to watch. I'm sure Ryan's really excited because they haven't been to the state championship game since 1991. But I'll go with Tipton.
Shaq.
I've kind of been riding the Ryan Cowboy train for a while. I think I was the only one picked them a couple weeks ago, wasn't I?
Yeah, I think you're wrong on me this week.
Yeah, see? So I'm sticking with them. I mean, just gonna let it ride one more week and hope the Cowboys pull it off. But I mean, if you look at the scores, I'm going to be honest. I don't do Tom research to that level, but I think they're the only ones that have played them even close this year, aren't they? When it comes to Tipton, so
yeah, the other game was 30 some odd points. It should have been a 45er, but it was just close. The other game
I mean, I don't think they'll be scared of them, and I think this. You get small schools, you throw them out there. There whole bunch of things can happen on a Friday night. So I'm taking the Cowboys to pull the upset.
Coach Smith.
Good friends with Coach Tomberlin and Coach White. Both of them can play a little golf. Travis White's a great golfer, by the way. Kind kind of a sandbagger, even that. 8-0 all time. Tipton is versus Ryan. I think they've kind of got their number. I think they've kind of got the the swagger a little bit. I do think that 8-point win earlier in the year was great for Ryan, and I think Ryan has confidence, but I do think Tipton wins this one, and I think it'll be more than 8 points. And I really am rooting for Coach Tomberlin. I love him a lot, but Coach White does a great job as well.
Coach Jones, I know you watched a lot of Class C film this year. Give us your thoughts, Ryan, Tipton.
Well, I'm not going to go against anybody that's won 6 state championships, so I'm going with Tipton.
Coach Tyler.
Hey, same. Got to go with Tipton.
All right, guys. Great show tonight. Really appreciate everybody joining us on the Squirtle Pater Pick'em Show, sponsored by Maples, Nix, and Dieselhorst Law Firm. Again, be sure to tune into the Squirtle.tv and the Squirtle app, where you can watch that Fairview Woodland game and also listen to the audio of the Washington Jones games. Best of luck to the teams playing for a state championship this week. We'll be back next week with our final Pick'em Show of the year. We'll see you then.